Oh, so guys, let's get to the political war, the battle on the political platform. And I normally really love the way you people participate in the Kenyan politics. Jamaica Wagwan, how is JLP and PNP on? Do we still have more battles there? So in Kenya, actually, there's a lot of battles loading, but they are, I think, kind of pretentious battles just to fool the citizens, right? It is what it is. It's clear that America knows that if they support any Kenyan president, that president is not good for the country. And why do they do this? Talk about neocolonialism, right? You have to control these nations, even though they seem to pretend to be independent, so that every time they're on their knees and you keep controlling their minds and their systems. Do you ask yourself why we have CBE, for example? Why was it forced even when we are not ready? You know, ask yourself why Gachagua had to go to USA, for example. You know, such are the questions we should keep asking ourselves. Now talk about these loans that Kenya is receiving day after day, even when the citizens feel like we are a donkey that is overridden. So there is something that was being shared on Political Headache, and I was so surprised, shocked. I don't know whether you'll be shocked like me. So let's look at this, and I think I will be waiting for your opinion. Meanwhile, subscribe to Live Saga TV, and let's go on with the political war. Because it is what it is. If you avoid politics, then it's your own game. Everybody is ridden by politics, right? Yeah, it is in our kitchen, it's in our bedroom, it's in our sitting room. So if you want to shut up, shut up. For me, I'll keep talking about it because it's the only panadol to our headache, right? If you talk about it, then you just find yourself laughing about it, and you don't have to really take it personal or to your lungs. Sema siasa unaweka wapi? All right, so if you don't know the answer, you actually can come back later and I'll be giving you the the answer to that. So let's get to this discussion, and I was actually surprised with this on Herman Manyora's show.
The complicity of most international financial sectors like IMF and World Bank, and how deliberately they cripple countries because they know the kind of leaders they're dealing with. They know how greedy they are. They know most of these monies will never be utilized as per the instruments of their borrowing. They know.
I wonder whether World Bank gives some money to Norway.
You know, this World Bank and IMF, these multinational corporations that lend money, they don't lend money so that it can be used in those countries. No, they know this particular president. The fact is that when you see a country like America liking your president, it should be an alarm. Then that president is not good for that country. They give you money knowing that you are not going to use this money to help your people. You are not going to use this money to develop your country. And they will get, by giving you that money, they will get a lot of money back in terms of interest for a very long period of time. And leverage as well. And leverage. You say, hey, you will not be able to meet this deadline. In the next 4 months,
Yeah, guys, I'm just relating this situation to online loans, whereby possibly you're given a loan and they know by that time you'll not be able to pay, and for you will keep borrowing and giving back, borrowing and giving back, so you become, a debt prisoner, Yeah, so you find most of the times people say they are free, but how free are we, So like a country, Kenya or any other African country, how free are we? Like when you look at the current debt, I hope all of you are aware about the current Kenyan debt. And we keep saying that we are free, and we keep saying that we have our independence, that we are seeking to have our leaders who will represent us. Now, do you begin to see the journey of Gachagua in a different lens? Do you actually now see our president in different lens? When you see them coming back with a baggage of loans, do you actually see that differently? Now, I want you to look at the empowerment programs that have been running in Kenya. We started from Kapsaret, they went to Machakos, they went to Kitui, there was one at Kisii. Then recently at Migori, the latest, where Millie Ojambo, the bad girl, was being asked to twerk, and indeed she twerked and came out to protect herself and said that dancing is in her DNA. Of course, dancing is in the DNA of most people, but sometimes when somebody asks you to dance, you have to think about where and how and what, you know. Like I told you, that song was Atoti. Atoti is a song whereby Atoti is a lady who is being praised for her morphology, you know. So you have to show stuff, you know, like you show your ODM, you show your Migingo, you show your whatever. So can you actually tell me that Millie Ojambo, however much she's coming to the Facebook to protect herself and say that whatever she was doing was right, do you really believe that she has the audacity? Though the audacity she has it, and the effrontery itself, she has it, but does it really stand out when she says dancing is a DNA? There is a difference between you dancing because the music is getting to the system and somebody telling you dance and show them kama umetosha mboga, you know. Kutosha mboga in Kenya is a different subject. You can't place mboga in a political context. You see, like the day Shege was asked to dance, unajua Faruka alimwambia nini? Alimwambia huyu mama hata akilala kitandani, you will sleep up the next day, not even waking up. Guys, politics is politicking in Kenya, no cornering, guys. So this is a context. However much Millie Odhiambo will protect Farouk, it's clearly telling us that women have been objectified in the political world, you know. So it's quite clear that even though they'll try to protect and stand and argue against, the reality. Shanti, hi, how are you? Welcome on board and thank you so much for your support and presence here. I can see they've not chatted, but you feel free to chat. Just introduce yourself, say, and give us a kiss on the, on the platform. Thank you so much for that. Now, guys, I also looked into a different scenario, and this was really shocking aspect. Let me get to it first before I play it, The Mbadi politics. You remember I talked about the other day, the aspect of Mbadi coming out and saying the government does not allocate enough money for education. Then on the other side, Ruto was like, we have everything. And now this is a confusion that we get because these people are in the same house, but they are speaking a different language. One speaking French, another one Japanese. So who understands who, None of them is even coming out with a common English language for everybody to understand. So let's play that and we can proceed on. And here it is. So get to this platform. Sina shida nikifungwa. I'm better in prison than outside. Okay, just Tilly says I speak French and Portuguese. That's wonderful. Do you speak English too?
Kwanza, it was subsidized secondary school. And later he announced that it should be free day secondary school.
Oh, no English?
And so it's changed.
So as we are doing this presentation, you mean you're not getting what you are saying? But you are typing in English. You have said I speak English, French and Portuguese. So how did you actually get to write that?
It is 15,000. And for primary school, it is 1,400. But I want to tell you this, and that is the fact, that since the introduction of free day secondary school, the government has not been able to give or allocate
No problem, you can actually learn, because as long as you know some basic English, I don't see any problem. You know, even for us, we would just wish to understand some one or two words for Portuguese or French, and that makes us good to go, you know.
That is why you hear principal saying we have not received full capitation. But let me tell you this. The government disburses the whole amount allocated in the budget, but still it is not enough. So, the only thing I did yesterday was to confirm that yes, we have allocated so much budget and we are giving it in full, but it is not enough to give every child in Kenya 22,000. That budget, if you divide.
All right, so if you go back to our lay parents, most of them, if you go back to the lay parents, back to every other place in Kenya, to the grassroots, no one actually understands this mathematics body is playing with us, you know. We generally know that students are supported, and there is 22,000 that comes for each of them. So the confusion here is actually one thing, because you would wonder. And I saw yesterday one of the leaders, was it, I don't know whether it's Sudi. Sudi came out saying that Badi should always consult, comes out to the platform and say something. Just like in ODM, people are doubting why Sifuna and speak before consulting the Orange House and the entire leadership. Now, up to this time, I'm not even, you know, I don't know who to ask about what Mbadi said. And on the other hand, President Ruto came out saying a different message, you know. It becomes a whole confusion. Anyway, let's hear what he says so that we can compare notes and get to our analysis and see what it is. What is the reality? Because the president came out and said that it's clear they have money for schools and Mbadi should not confuse anybody. Now, when you look at the history of free education, or rather subsidized, it came out when most of the people in Kenya, some of them were dropping, and it came out to stand out that we have to have free or subsidized education up to Form 4, so that at least every citizen has literacy, because literacy is one of the aspects which came after independence. Immediately after independence, one of the Kenya's target was to make sure that there is literacy which would now pull down aspects of diseases, poverty, and you know, so many of them. However, it seems that at some point, maybe Kenyans lost track, and we got to have this, you know, there's a period whereby now parents, even at primary school level, they had to pay some money for their kids to be kept at school. Then of late, then Badi announced this, and parents were so scared that they were going to pay for the exams. And sometimes when you're not being prepared, you may find that some students would not have sat for this year's exam. However, the situation was rescued, and we are seeing that exams will go on as planned. Still is saying, I want to learn African language, not colonial language. Oh, African language, which one? Because you already know French and Portuguese. Which language is that particularly? Like, which African language would you want to learn? Because unless you are learning Xhosa from South Africa, Luganda from Uganda, Kiswahili, it's a general language that is used in communication, but not actually for a specific sport. So let's get to see what the president said on assuring people that there is funding for education. Let's hear this.
President William Ruto's attention, his intervention, primary and secondary, ni ya kikatiba ya wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Education cannot be compromised. We cannot compromise access. We cannot compromise quality. We cannot compromise affordability. And we cannot compromise relevance. It must be what we are looking for. Speaking at SAGA St. Martin's.
All right. This was a session at church, and we hope that being at church, then there are no lies, you know. Si mambo ya kutenga, tutatenda, na tumenena. We hope that is going to be the reality of what has been planned. However, there are so many questions I and you would ask, you know. If you look at quality, what is our level of quality in Kenya? When you talk about quality education, how do we gauge that? Because at the end of the day, people think that you gauge quality of education by KCSE results, and so people run up and down. That is why we are having irregularities all over the places, people trying to cheat, parents even sacrificing to pay for cheating, and everybody else wanting to apply the crooked ways. Because actually, everybody thinks quality is in grades. Is that what it means by quality in education, or what exactly is that? Because when you look at the provisions, compare a Kenyan system of education with the developed nations, in developed nations, you will see the class setting is even inspiring to a teacher, because the materials are there, they provide tools that are required, the systems. You find that maybe a class has even the composition itself allows students to sit in various settings. Let's talk about when they face the teacher and when they sit in circles, when they watch some tools. Like each class would actually have the enhanced, like the not the smart board, for example. How many schools in Kenya have smart boards? So that while you are teaching, the current students are use variety of ways to understand. We have people who are kinetic, we have people who are audio, we have people who are visual, we have people who use variety of ways to understand content. Now in Kenya, we have remained on one specific traditional way of teaching, whereby maybe they learn through listening. And if there is writing, it's very minimal, done on in fact, maybe whiteboard or maybe blackboard in some situations, from primary to high school. You go to public schools, I don't think you will find smart machines around. At some point, students received some, was it iPads or iPods, But how many did receive? How many can tell you they can use it? Because that is the kind of quality education I believe it's supposed to be talked about. When you go to the CBE, you will find they're talking teachers using the IT in class. How do you use IT in a class that does not even have, a socket? How do you use, such machines if maybe a school does not have a projector, or if they have one against 2,000 students, maybe against 20 classrooms. So uses at what time? And are even all teachers ready to use such materials? Like the transition between one class and another, does it allow a teacher to automatically come about, deliver content using the current systems and all that? No wonder you're seeing that when teachers get an opportunity to go teach in other countries, they quickly run for that, and they would do anything. You saw the situation of it's around April when some teachers came back from other countries because they had really sacrificed, even some of them to an extent of selling their land so that they can have an opportunity to teach in other countries where they believe there is quality education, where they are offered a setting that is suitable, systems and all those materials that would make them feel like they are offering quality education, For those of you who have watched most American systems or UK or all that, you normally see that classes, the students are sitting there. If you start a lesson and you want them to see something like go for a virtual trip, it's very possible for each student to open a certain platform and go through it, a digital space. Is that space there in Kenya? Very wanting. Maybe you go to GCSE schools, and these ones are not under our system that the government is talking about. Now, when you talk about what they are saying, that there is money, and it's constitutional that public schools, or rather students in schools, are supported. Why does it happen that that money does not arrive in all schools? Definitely, you've heard about one of these person talking on Headache channel, indicating that we have ghost schools, and those ghost schools receive money, whereas those who are justified to receive. I heard of a case of Kisumu, a school whereby they received only 2,000 shillings, junior secondary, right? If you are on online, you saw that. The news really spread, and it was not just one school, several schools got low capitation, 2,000 shillings. If you are sending to a school 2,000 shillings, what does that mean? What is the imagination of the government? How many students are in that school? So in such a school, you don't tell me that they would even be motivated to do anything. What development can you do with 2,000 shillings? A whole term. Now, of course, when you look at this term, term 2 of 2020, so many schools have closed down early, some complaining they don't have money. And of course, because that money has reduced, you find that there are those schools which will only prioritize what they think is necessary for them. They will ignore some revision material, they'll ignore things to do with necessary workshops and symposium for students. So they'll only go for the bare minimum. And that bare minimum cannot give the quality you're talking about, because when students are in school, it's not just about grades, it's about molding so much in them, creativity, critical thinking, and so many other aspects that we understand under the social pillar. Now let's get to this school at Kilimani Primary in Tharaka and see the situation here. There is no staff room and there's only a single CDF class, So let's check this dismal situation here. Let me open it again. Of course, the parents will be speaking in their language, but I would unturn some things here from the news anchor. I don't know, they didn't show the school itself. Yeah, of course it can be seen. Hey, Petros Kami, you're asking whether I'm in Congo. This is not Congo, this is Kenya, imagine. Such a broken down system. Look at this class, for example. Athens. All right, at this point here. Yep, here. I'm not in Congo, Petros. Staki Ebola. Yeah, look at that one. It's a classroom, actually. You see that is a classroom. So how do you call upon these students to have quality education? Even the teachers here, how do they provide quality education? So we talk about theories all the time. But the reality is that while politicians speak on the other hand and talk of empowerment, there is still a wanting situation on the ground. And that is why you wonder sometimes when someone is able to afford maybe 10 million just to go and pour around and motivate people and say they're doing empowerment. But then education, which has been always referred to as an equalizer, everybody knows that education is an equalizer aspect that brings kings and, slaves on the same table. It is dismal and actually disgusting that currently we have schools which look like that. And even this one is better because we've seen situations whereby students, I think it was around April again, they showed a school whereby students sit under the tree. And so when it rains, there's no studies. Students even have to rush home because there's no schooling that is going on. So the contradicting information here is still very wanting, and every other person is asking, or rather waiting on, to see what will come out. All right, Petros Kami is saying banana state. Of course, the banana states are all over Africa, but for selfish reasons, because if there is a lot of money around, money that can be even used on unwanted projects, some projects go on and no one is pressing for them. Yet there are basic aspects which everyone wants, like in health, in education, and we can't see them happening. It's like most of the times, even if you look at different constituencies, you look at different places, you will find someone saying we have to build a market. But when you look at the road, it is literally a farm, something like a farm. We should be planting sugarcane or banana bananas on that road. So how do you build a market, for example, in a place when there is no road? Who will be going to that market? And how will they even get their products to the market? So you realize that, like Western, they have really showed this road that goes through Malava to Navaholo onwards. When you go to Nyandarua, so many roads have been shown in a very pathetic state. When it rains, no one can pass. There are also some roads in Nyanza, especially, is it Homa Bay, interior? When you look around the globe, when people are actually doing those analysis on documentaries, you realize that the roads interior are pathetic, so that there's no vehicle that can invade those spaces and go to the homes and farms. Yet, somebody now builds a market in such a place and says, I've done a project. So it's a decision that is done maybe for beneficial purposes. A bridge is started, it's never finished. It takes years and years. So you wonder how, is it the problem with the engineer? Is it the problem with the payment? What exactly has happened? But if you are following on Morara, though he has been silenced and currently he's quiet and he's opened an M-Pesa platform to return money he had been contributed to by some citizens during the times he was digging the ghost projects. But the reality is that on the ground, what happens and what is said is very different. And sometimes some projects which don't have to be launched are always launched. A politician does a very small project, and maybe it's just a necessity, and they come about to launch it and make it a platform for campaigns, So let's listen to these fellas from Political Headache for more details here. All right, is it silent?
Wanakunywa huku ni third generation, kwanza ni radius. They only bring in coffee. That's why when you buy coffee in a Muthaiga mini mart and someone has bought coffee in a Mudhurwa market, there's a very big difference. Because the one in the Mudhurwa market is not coffee, it's a radius. It's meant for average Kenyans. The real coffee is in Muthaiga, but because we cannot afford, it has to. And the one in Muthaiga, we are not the ones who did the value addition. It was imported. We import coffee that is being planted here in Kiambu. When you go to UK, say, let me take coffee. Do they have any coffee plantations? Not even one. I like coffee. Where are they getting the coffee? Yet their mornings are run by coffee. Could you give me a glass of coffee? Look at them. We are giving them coffee.
Sarcastic, right? Very sarcastic and ironic at the same time. We are producers of a lot of stuff, including sugarcane. We have sugarcane that produces sugar and many other materials out of that. We have coffee around the country. We have tea and saizo. Of course, when you go all around from Kilifi to Taita Taveta, to Taita itself, that's Mwatate areas, there are a lot of saizo plantations. Get to Taveta also, Krishna is there with a lot of saizo plantations. When you come to somewhere around Kibwezi, there is also a saizo plantation. And the different zones in this country, we have a lot of people planting that coffee. Sunflower also, I've seen a lot of that in Migori, and you also come a bit to the Trans Nzoia and partly. I also see a lot of that around Nakuru during some season. There is also, what else? We have fluorspar, and we have a variety of products. However, we've been dwarfed. We are dwarfs in terms of production. So we do that, we have the raw materials, but we have never been good in production so that we do exportation. Instead, our products are taken. In fact, when you go to the airport here at Embakasi, what happens that a lot of products are taken away, including let's say avocados, currently they are really being collected around the country. In fact, if you plant avocados and you're a good producer, it's being hunted down every day. You know, come to peace, things to do with peace, they're also being collected every day. And so farmers around Thika there, they are really doing a lot of farming on that. And these products are taken from Kenya. Ironically, they have to be exported as, raw materials because now they are cheaply exported. And then they come back, we import again now as final products. It looks like we are still colonized. We are still colonized actually because I think we have stagnated our minds so much that we can't do much. That's why I've been asking a question on the Turkana crude oil. What happened with the so many gallons that were actually indicated? What happened? Does it mean we don't have machines, we don't have the partnership ability? Is our economy so poor? What happened? Because that is the question everybody asks. When you look at the fuel price and you are surprised that we have gallons of, fuel around the place, yet we have the most expensive price on fuel. You do not understand the mathematics, but you actually seeing what the analysis here is giving us some hints into what is happening,
So after Raila has lost AU, because I knew he would lose.
What do you mean you knew you lose?
One of the predictions I've made, and they went viral because they came, is when I talked about Raila Odinga losing the AU.
What did you say at the time?
I said that because I was telling some other guys that by now when you are supporting Raila Odinga, you should be very careful. When supporting Raila Odinga, you should always look at his body language. You must never be angrier than him and happier than him. Just go the way he is. There is something Museveni said during the Luo festival in Siaya, and I think, and I think, and I think people did not.
And had TVs in your land and
Yes. I was at a catwalk and I was telling people, guys, people were so. There's also something very peculiar about Raila Odinga, where he sells the hidden part of politics. I don't know whether that makes sense. Here's the thing: many people who trust Raila have always
talk about opportunism. A lot of Kenyans are opportunistic. If they get a chance, it's not hard to sell you, not hard, right? And that is part of the reason why we are seeing a lot of stagnation in terms of economic growth in Kenya, and the politics are just monkey business politics. Somebody is here today, tomorrow they jump to the other side. And a lot of people are asking questions surrounding Gachagua because they're asking, you are the deputy deputy president. You are actually supporting his government manifesto and everything. Now, why are you coming back to tell us what you're telling us? Why didn't you tell us then? And he just answers, he says, I'm the truthful man, I never did it, and I rejected, that's why we did not agree. But you may not understand actually how long did this take, and why did it take so long before he came out to say, and why did he only say after he was thrown out, And that's exactly why when you look at Raila Odinga, for example, many people don't have trust in him. And I don't know whether Odinga is going to get the landing that it had all along, people supporting it blindly. Anyway, we have fanatics, and fanatics support something whether it is vague or not. Anytime they don't use their brains, they just use their mind, not even mind, why am I saying mind? They just use their hearts, like recently I heard this, the conference that happened at Kakamega, the hotel. Do you know people are just they're saying that when Raila dances to the left, you dance to the left. When Raila turns to the right, you dance to the right. When Raila bends, they bend, That was the most, mediocre statement I ever heard, even from a very elderly man like Atwoli himself. And there was somebody else, I don't remember his name. How can you say that you can dance left, right, up and down for anybody just because you worship them? You know, now it becomes the democratic aspect that we had somebody talk about it, Miguna, and also the reality is that you form a kind of dynasty and ritualistic political system that adheres to what is happening, or rather what you would see others doing, and you don't even know. Like you stand somewhere and begin laughing, and somebody asks you, what are you laughing? And you say, I am laughing because I found others laughing. Are you getting? So this is the actual politics that happens in Kenya. So that people dance because they saw others dancing, but they don't understand the tune, you know? You don't understand the music, but you have to dance because your leader is dancing it. So that is the quagmire that actually ODM has found themselves in. And I don't know, now currently with everybody, like we see UDA, we see Natembea, we see, is it Wamalwa, we see Matiang, and all those people are actually standing up. But we're actually hoping that whoever will come out and sweep will be someone who is not dancing to the tune, like based on what people are doing. I'm doing it because others are doing it. That's a very poor philosophy for anybody. And it becomes a shackle of doom, you know? It becomes a shackle of a doom for any nation, whereby leaders blindly do as others do. And I think it was very barbaric. I don't know whether Atwoli thought about what he was saying, or he just came about saying what he said. What did he take the audience for example? That is my question. So ladies and gentlemen, as we dig deep into our politics, there is a shifting opposition ground, ODM losing ground. At the same time, the government seeming to be so weak because they are there to defend. When you become so defensive, sometimes there are question marks surrounding what you're doing. Like, why should the government even be bothered? Like, why should they stand every day, Sudi posting something, Farouk posting something, Wanga posting something, Mbadi saying something? Like, are they really into the business of serving the citizens? That's the question you would ask. Because now every day has turned into a campaign aspect, and everyone is defending their ground. And the people are already forming now kind of groups where they'll work together to achieve their specific objectives they would actually want to attain. Now let's look at this, for example, the falling apart here. Let's check into this. Yeah, we have about 2 minutes to finish our. So you can also raise a question. If maybe from the friends who come from other countries, you can share your questions about what I've been talking about, and then I respond to it. All right, so I'm still waiting for the questions as I look for something, but if I won't get it, you'll forgive me for that. Only that I've just raised the questions or rather done the analysis I wanted to offer. We have about 1 minute to cut down our live stream. But watch out, you know, if you listen to the game changer aspect, I don't know, who will become the game changer in our Kenyan politics? And we have the change of character of Kenyans because, as I've said, the aspect of opportunism in a selfish way is what is killing us. You know, someone can dance to any tune anytime. And of course, when you look at Badi, I'm just looking at what he said once. I don't know whether I'll get it. I had opened, but I think, you know, before he came into the government, what was he saying? Now, when he came in, what did he say? You can actually check on different videos to compare, to do a comparison of this and see what I'm talking about here. So is he really representing us or representing himself? The reality is he seems to be representing himself, because even when you look at Oparanya alisema peremende iko kwa mdomo, so yeye hawezi ongea. And that is the nature of people in the country, everywhere, you know. As long as peremende iko kwa mdomo, why should you speak, even if things are wrong? Mwenye ana peremende waja pige nini? Kelele. Yeah, so that has been the order of the day. And actually, no wonder we are seeing the stagnation in education, health, and all other things surrounding us, guys. So I'm coming to an end of this. Thank you so much for those who came handy during the stream. And those who may get us already having finished, you can actually subscribe to the channel and like the video, share my videos, and we grow together in this, guys. So thank you so much. Have a good day.